the swagger trap, this one is a little bit more complicated for me to explain. So bear with me. Whilst I have been through these situations and have now helped Alex through it, I've never really articulated them before. So bear with me. So the swagger trap happens almost always after you've had a record month. You have a record month and you then end up in this place where you're swaggering around, you've got your ego inflated, and your confidence is now outweighing your competence. And so what I mean by that is all of the things that got you to that record month, you are now no longer doing all of those things at the level you need to or consistently. And that bit probably makes sense. That's probably not that complicated. The bit which is a bit harder to wrap your head around is why this is such a dangerous place to be in, where you've got yourself in this swagger trap, is why you don't realize that you're actually swaggering around, not doing the basics, cutting corners and skipping steps. The reason ties into another principle, which is simply the principle of delayed results. Delayed results. And so what that means is that you will do a lot of inputs. You'll do the work, you'll do the training, you'll do the mentorship, you may get yourself on a better offer. And all of those inputs have a delayed result where all of a sudden you're now 1 month later or 6 weeks later or 8 weeks later start seeing the results of that previous work, okay? Why that's important is, let's say you're at $10,000 a month and you start putting in extra work, you get on a better offer, and as a result of that, you then go up to 20,000. Your income, when you end up in the swagger trap, may stay at 20,000, even though you're now cutting corners and you're not doing a lot of the basics. And the reason that it can stay at that level is because of previous work that you've put in or previous changes that you've put in, such as you were at 10K a month before because you were selling a 5K offer, you got on a better offer and you're now selling a 10K offer. Well, if nothing else changed, your income has doubled. But your income didn't double because you got better at mastering the basics or doing the things you're supposed to do. In fact, you could actually do less of the basics, but be on a better offer at a higher price point with better leads or taking more calls, and your income's actually gone up. But you're actually doing worse execution on the things you're supposed to be doing. And so why it's so dangerous is you'll end up in the swagger trap thinking, if I look at the results that I'm getting, I'm making more money. But actually, when I review your call or reviews your call, you're actually performing worse than you were performing before you made that jump. Does that make sense, everyone? Why it's so easy to get stuck in this place? And so, not calling out Alex, because it will happen probably to all of you. You'll have a record month. And the reason you got to the record month is you've been really studying hard, training and doing everything, that we tell you to do. And then you hit this record month and all of a sudden you're stopping doing those simple things. I then reviewed the call for Alex, and even though Alex had been having record months, I was like, what are you doing? Like, you're not doing this, you're not doing that, you're not doing this, you're not getting the data. What is going wrong? And it was only by showing him his blind spot that he was in this swagger trap where he was like, oh, I had a record month, I'm doing super good. I don't really have to worry about reading the prospect or reading the room or showing up with the right energy, doing all the data gathering, that stuff there, that was just basics. I don't need to bother with all of that. And all of a sudden, even though he is technically making more money than he was making before, how you have to view it is how much are you losing compared to how much extra money you could be making if you were still doing all of the basics. Yeah. Now, the reason you get into that state is a combination of two things. Number one, not understanding that a lot of the results that you get are a delayed response to work that you put in and can actually be counterintuitive to the results that you're seeing on the outside. That's part one. And part two is, now you've had a record month, you think you no longer need to do the basics and you end up with this swagger and you cut corners and you stop actually doing what you're supposed to do. That is something that will probably happen to all of you at some point when you hit a record month. Does that make sense? And so hopefully now that you have a model for it to understand it, you'll be able to recognize when you get in that place, or hopefully much more quickly when you're in that place. And then you'll also know, and I'll detail it a little bit more now, how you get out of that place. How you get out of that place is, number one, you have to have or I review your call or do a role play with us so we can actually show you the truth that you're cutting out all of those basics. You're cutting out all of the corners. Second thing is when we actually do that core review, you then need to go back to doing all of the basics. Okay, the basics will close a lot more people than any advanced sales tactic that you think you need. Okay, does that all make sense? Anybody got anything you want to add? Anybody feel like they are in that place now? Anybody feel like they've been in that place recently?
Yes, recently just reviewed my call like this week, and it was such a massive eye opener for me. I'm like, shit, I've been like, that scriptless headlock. I've been doing that big time, and called me out on it. So yeah, thanks for that, So I've been in the swagger trap for sure, and I had a record month in February.
Yeah, I feel like I was in that place as well. I had a record month in February, and then I believe that's when I did the first role play with you and Victoria, and then even leading into the second one, it checks you in a really amazing way where it's like, oh, doing the work every single day and just like the strategic massive action every day to just move the ball forward a little bit, just little by little, you just feel so much better, and like I'm just equipped for my whole future, not just I'm just going to be on a high cloud because I hit a record month, because that could just turn around at any second. So yeah, I just relate to this and also relate to the dead zone like so much. I need to raise that barometer. That is my number one action item after today.
Is anybody, just before we move the mic, is anybody confused about the difference between the dead zone and the swagger trap? Okay, good. Good. Anybody else wanted to add anything? Anybody else been in this place now? No? Okay, one final bit to add on to that. I wanted to do this piece by piece so it doesn't become confusing. There is another reason why your close rate / your amount of income can actually stay at the same level, even though you've actually stopped doing a lot of the basics, okay? And the reason that it can actually sometimes stay at the same level, which makes it very difficult to see cause and effect, is that there is two things that will close people. Number one is the information and the data, all of the things that you're gathering from your questions on the sales call, how you're running the discovery. Another part of how you sell people is your certainty, your confidence, how the prospect actually feels about being around you. When you're a beginner, you don't have conviction, you don't have confidence, you don't have certainty. You are a beginner's mind, you're hungry, you're fresh to learn everything, and the only tool in your tool belt to close deals is doing the right things technically, asking the right questions at the right time, gathering all the data, running your 4 cool pillars. If you don't do all of that, you can't lean on just being super certain and having that conviction be transferred to the prospects. Once you've had a record month, you carry that swagger and you carry that certainty and you carry that confidence and you carry that conviction. And there are still prospects that will buy from you even if you do a pretty bad discovery, because they just feel that you're so certain, you're so confident. And they're like, he's run me through the pitch and I don't really feel like we got into the truth of things or the data, but you know what, I want to buy this. And they're more buying your certainty and your conviction and your confidence, even though you didn't really do a masterful discovery. It's another reason why this place is so dangerous, because it's very hard to see the cause and the effects. And it's that distortion that keeps you in this place and prevents you getting to the next level. Does that make sense to everyone? You're no longer actually doing the right things on the call, or you're doing not as many of the right things as you need, but you've just hit a record month. You turn up to the call, hey, how's it going? Awesome. Yeah, I know we've got a limited amount of time. You ready to jump in? The prospect's like, okay, well, I guess that's what we're doing. And you run them through your discovery and you get into the pitch and everything's just kind of like downhill. So you then close the deal and you're like, oh, I must be doing an awesome discovery. I'm the bee's knees. Well, actually, you probably did a terrible discovery, but there is still a small portion of leads that will just buy on your conviction. Now, to get to the highest level, which is what we're hopefully all here for, 100K a month, you need both. You need to, number one, be doing all of the right tactics and techniques, which is data gathering, 4 cool pillars, having a professional background, scriptless selling, internal mastery, pre-call checklist, etc. but you also have to have that certainty, that confidence. And that level of certainty and confidence is on a barometer where it can be too low, which is the beginner closer. They're not closing any deals because they've got conviction. They're just doing the right things, hopefully. But it can also be too high. When it goes too far in the other direction, it's like if you've ever heard of like beer goggles, where you're not actually really seeing things for what they really are. You're being distorted in your vision because of your confidence. You need to have that perfect place in the middle where you have certainty, you have conviction, but you don't have too much certainty and conviction that you're not actually seeing things for what they really are. And having that self-awareness is part of self-actualized self-awareness, you becoming a better version of yourself, which is not being the person that's all the way down here on the confidence level and not being the person that's all the way up here on the distorted confidence level, but being in the middle, which always called to me, not too high and not too low. If you're too high or if you're too low, you're not going to be at peak performance. Does that make sense, everyone?
Yeah.
Did you want to add anything on that? No? Sure, of course.
So when you're in this last, like this,
So when you're in this stage or this kind of predicament, I guess you could say, how does one know? Because typically when you have a closed call, you don't bring a closed call to have it get reviewed. So if you feel,
Why not? Alex did.
oh, was that a closed call?
That call closed, didn't it?
Okay. Yeah, I guess that's in my own mind. What would be the like thing within that like I could feel to know that maybe I need to bring this call, just like my intuition, like I don't think I did my best, I'm going to bring this to the call?
It might not be that you're aware that the call wasn't where it should be. But part of being in this mastermind and being on this journey is you should always be wanting to get better.
yeah.
So the point is not, oh, when are the best times for me to bring calls to review and when are times when I probably don't really need to? You should always be bringing calls to review. If a month goes by and you haven't tried to get a call review, do you not want to get better? You may want to get better because you're aware you're not closing,
Yeah.
but you should also be wanting to get better because you're not making 100K a month.
Yeah.
So long as you're not at 100K a month, there will be things that I could teach you, whether it was a closed call or a not closed call, that would get you better and get you to the next level.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Great question. Anybody else? Why so silent, guys? Was that just very clear or?
Your voice? ACB was very
Okay.